Hello, 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 good people. Welcome to Not Right, Not Wrong, the podcast on 92.6, The Spot. Today, once again, your co-hosts are in the place. We have C1, also known as It Is Dark Outside. How are you today, Mr. Mark?
I'm alive and well, D1. Thank you for asking.
My pleasure. It's good to see you as always.
For sure. I'm still handsome.
Yes, the people know. The people the people are well aware.
I can't say that anymore. I got to bring that back.
And then we have the man with the bass, Just Ja. Ja.
What's happening? What's happening? How are you? How are you, Miss Empress?
I am amazing. I'm great. How are you, sir?
I'm amazing.
I'm well. I'm well. Shout out to all the melanated people in the diaspora. You dig?
You dig? All the melanated people across the land.
That's what I'm saying.
Yes, yes, yes. It's good to see you both this week.
Likewise. Likewise.
First, I have to check in with you, Just Ja. There's some business that we have to make sure that's handled. Some business of a Zelle that you were supposed to be on the receiving end of. Is Mark a man of his word? Did you receive your Zelle?
It's not even a need for that. Come on, you already know.
I don't know. You can be shady sometimes.
1000% D1. 1000%.
Come on now.
Yeah, transaction occurred right after the show. 1000%.
You already know.
All right, I love it. I love a man of his word. It's my favorite thing.
I'm not ash betting. I'm not ash betting. I wasn't just for the show.
Yes. It's all good. It's all good.
Beautiful. Well, fellas, I'm going to jump right in because I think we have a lot to discuss today. And I'm just noticing the time. I just realized that, I don't know if we took note of it at first, but I got it now. So I want to talk to you guys about a conversation that has been decades in the making. A conversation between that many of us probably have seen before between Nikki, Giovanni, and James Baldwin. Two amazing writers, two great thinkers. And not that I am comparing us to those two, but I'm also not comparing us to those two. And I think that we three have the capacity to have similar conversations. And I think that one of the things that I feel this show represents is the opportunity to talk across genders. And so if you don't mind, I want to play a little snippet from this James Baldwin, Nikki Giovanni talk. And see if we can try and pick up where they left off. You guys down for that?
Yeah.
Let's do it.
Yeah. See what we can do.
Okay, cool. So just for reference, this discussion is about 2 hours long between Nikki Giovanni and James Baldwin. And I am picking up somewhere in the middle of that discussion. And they talked about a little bit of everything. They in this discussion, there's they explore religion and politics and police brutality and sort of generational syndromes and issues and so many of the topics that it feels like we are still toying with today. So for anyone who hasn't had the privilege to engage with the full conversation, I encourage you to do that for any of the listeners, because this is just a short snippet. I'm gonna play about 5 minutes of it. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
All right, so here we go. Wait, I want to go back just a little bit because I think that's in the middle of his sentence.
if I can even get my axe out of the pawn shop, if I can even get money to get on the subway, how am I going to love anybody except in such an awful pain and rage that nobody could bear it? I'm not trying to defend it. I'm trying to make you see it. Yeah. You see what I mean?
I do, but because maybe I'm hopeful, or because I've structured my life in a way that I won't...
I don't, by the way, think that what I'm describing is any longer true for your generation. I don't mean that.
But I see the same, what I keep saying is that I see the same syndromes in the same guys that I have to deal with now.
Yes, but my dear, what you have to see is also, you got to, look, think about the kid. Think about the kid. You know, what you're going through is one thing, and I'm not trying to minimize it. I'm not trying to minimize.
It's not the worst thing in the world.
I'm not trying to. I don't even mean you personally.
Yeah, I know the generation.
No,
it's not.
Yes, I don't mean you, Nikki, exactly.
No, I hope that nobody. No. I'm not talking about me that much.
I know. But what I do mean is that simply assume for the moment. The kid is a useful metaphor because it carries you past one moment
into the next,
into another moment. Because no matter what happens to me or to you, one's responsibility is somewhere else. So it's a terrible Tuesday and a wretched Friday. But, you know, the kid don't know that. And then you begin to see that what looked so awful on Wednesday or on Friday, or is so awful, is awful, but it's not eternal. You can get through it.
Hopefully.
And when you get through it, you can understand it.
Okay. We're not like in disagreement. What I'm trying to maybe get you to relate to is that, and I lay it on black men because I'm a black woman.
You have every right to.
I'm sure it's that arbitrary.
No, you have every right to.
But a guy, let's say a guy's going with girl.
Mm-hmm.
You're going with Maybelle. And Maybelle gets pregnant. All of a sudden, you can't speak to Maybelle because you don't have the money for a crib, right?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
She doesn't need a crib. The baby's going to sleep someplace. If you can follow me for 2 seconds, wait. Baby's going to sleep someplace. The baby's going to eat something. But what she needs at that moment is a man. Mm-hmm. And in order, if the man functions as a man,
mm-hmm.
which is not necessarily a provider for all that stuff, because mm-hmm. everybody can understand why you can't buy something. You don't have a job. You didn't have a job when you were always going to bed.
Mm-hmm.
Why are you going to get a job because she got pregnant? You understand? There's no job. But what she needs is a man to come by and say, hey, baby, you look good. And black men refuse to function like that because they say, I want to bring the crib when I come. Baby, you're never going to get the crib.
Baby.
Bring yourself.
Baby, I agree with you. I understand what you're saying, you know. But let me tell you this. You know, you may be absolutely right, and you are right from your point of view.
It's arbitrary.
But you have to understand my point of view.
I'm trying.
No. And from my point of view, well, if you were pregnant, I would act very differently. That's me. That's something else. But from the man's point of view, given the fact, as we said much earlier, that the standards of the civilization into which you were born are first outside of you, and by the time you get to be a man, they're inside of you. And this is not susceptible to any kind of judgment. It's a fact. If you're treated a certain way, you become a certain kind of person. If certain things describe you as being real, they're real for you, whether they're real or not. And in this civilization, a man who cannot support his wife and his child is not a man. And this is also for example, in the welfare rules. You know,
yeah.
The black man has always been treated as a slave, and of course he reacts that way, one way or another. You know, and you can blame him on a human level if you like, but I think it's more interesting you have to understand it. The bag the cat is in.
But it's so.
You know, because how can I? You know, I'm not being rational. You know, and I may love you, especially if I love you. How in the world I can't come with nothing.
But it's not,
I know it doesn't make any sense, Nikki, but a man is built like that.
You see, when we talk about the children, right? Or we talk about, like, let's say my little boy, your nephew, something like that. We talk about how are we going to create the new child in the same old syndrome? But
Well,
somebody has to fake it enough. You
Some-
understand? Somebody has to say, hell no, I can't buy you a bicycle. You don't need one.
Yeah,
And smile about
but
it so the
some-
kid can say, I'm not afraid of
But
daddy.
sometimes that happens, and after all.
But not enough to talk, when we talk about the group.
Yeah, but wait.
We're talking about the group.
Hold the phone, baby. You know, it has begun. Something has begun. The fact that we're talking about it is a beginning.
It's very important.
You know, it's very important indeed. Look, I've had to learn in my own life, you know, I want this. I want it Friday. And Friday comes and I worked my behind off to get something done that don't come. It doesn't come for 20 years. Then you use that 20 years. Look, life is a very short and very long time. It is, really it is, you know. And it's very important not to get hung up on any given detail, because what is there, like the fact that you're a woman and the fact that I'm a man, that's going to be there forever, and we're going to deal with that
It's there
forever.
from the beginning.
You know,
Sure.
and we have to deal with it from day to day, you know, because if we love each other, we both know it. The tragedy is we both know it, and the greater tragedy is that it's destroyed by things which have nothing to do with you and nothing to do with me. A man is built as he's built, and there's nothing one can do about that. A man is not a woman,
That's true.
you know, and whether he's wrong or right, look, if we're living in the same house, you're my wife or my woman, I had to be responsible for that house. And I'm not allowed to be responsible for that house. I'm no longer in my own eyes. It doesn't make any difference what you may think of me. In my own eyes,
That's very.
I'm not a man.
That's the thing.
You see what I
It does
mean?
indeed make a difference what I think about it. Because I could be perfectly willing, and as a matter of fact, I am perfectly willing to concede that, first of all, a man is a natural aggressor. You know what I mean? I don't care if I walked up to you and said, let's go to bed. You are the aggressor in that situation. Because it all depends on you. I could fool myself. I could fool my friends. Like, yeah, I got him. It depended on you. You see? So I'm never confused on that level.
Yeah,
But I've seen so many people get so hung up in such crappy, superficial kind of things that for lack of being able to bring a steak in the house, they won't come. I can get my own damn steak.
Nikki,
I need you.
but Nikki,
And that's what the black, no, really, I mean,
Yeah,
that's
but
to me what the black
yeah,
man
but Nikki,
isn't it?
Nikki, you're perfectly right. But you're
I'm
being,
holding my dress.
but you're being perfectly rational.
But it's a rational situation.
Yeah, but love is not a rational situation.
Love must be. It must be rational. Because this irrationality that we have does
Look, when I
not
was
work.
trying-
It destroys people.
I quite agree with you.
Okay. So I'm going to stop there. And I just need you all to know it was so hard for me to find one clip. I jumped back and forth a few times, but I decided to choose this clip. And I said it was 5 minutes. That's a lie. It was more like 8 minutes. But I decided to choose this clip because I felt like it gave more context than some of the other clips, and it kind of touched on a few aspects of things that Not Right, Not Wrong has already discussed, right? Kind of aspects of what happens between generations, a little bit of parenting, some social dilemmas. Like, there's so much in there. For context, I want to reiterate that this interview took place in 1971. I think it took place in London. It aired on a show called Soul. And at the time of recording, James Baldwin was 48 years old. And I believe Nikki Giovanni was 28 years old. And so they are having not just an intergender discussion, but intergenerational discussion as well. And probably many other things. And so I don't even want to frame it any more than that. The first thing I want to know is what stands out to you guys when you hear this discussion. And I'm gonna start with you. What stands out to you?
What stood out for me was Nikki and James Baldwin. They were having a conversation, but there was still a bit of a struggle there to understand each other. And I think that what happens, because it's happening to this day, is that we collectively both genders have to, in order for it to be a successful union, both genders have to do away to a certain degree the so-called what's the word I'm looking for? It's not stigma, or the so-called expectations of who a man is and what he's supposed to do, and who a woman is and what she's supposed to do. Meaning that to James' point, he was trying to get Nikki to understand the wiring of a man's mind, and he's totally right. What I would add is to tap into. A man should also be able to tap into his feminine and have a sense of calm and peace. Like, come down and have a sense of calm and peace with this woman when all she's requiring him at the moment is just to be with him. And so it's like, and this is what Nikki was trying to say to him. And James was like, you're right, but this is how we are. Yes, this is how we are. But Nikki's saying, come down a bit and just be with me, because right now I understand what you're going up against. I understand what you're struggling with. I understand that you feel like there's no way out. You're caught between a rock and a hard place. So being that I understand that, I'm still here to be your peace. This is what Nikki's trying to convey to her. I'm still here to be your peace, regardless of what's going on. I know what's going on. I see you. I see what's going on, but I'm still here, willing to be your peace. So come down a little bit and be at peace with me. And so I immediately understood what Nikki was trying to convey to her. You know, he was saying, you're right, but I understood what Nikki was trying to convey to her. And so conversely, whether Nikki wanted to admit it or not, or a woman wants to admit it or not, a woman's going to be your piece for a certain timetable. It's not going to be for a certain amount of period of time. She's going to be your piece at a certain timetable, but at some point, she's going to be like, dude, what you doing? Do you have a plan? What are you about to do? You see what I'm saying? So I think James Baldwin understood that, but I don't think, and of course, like you said, he's a brilliant writer. Him and Nikki Giovanni is one of the greatest Black intellectuals in our collective diaspora historically, right? Definitely. But I think what James missed is explaining that to her. Like, look, I appreciate that, but I know y'all on a timetable with that be your peace shit. You know what I'm saying? And I know as a man, I got to come up with a plan, and I got to do something. I have to do something. I just can't come home and be in peace and be in love with you, stand in that love with you, and the bills is not being paid. Love don't pay the bills. I, as a man, have to figure out a way to go out there and get food in this house and keep a roof over our head and clothes on our backs. So if there's no other else way to do it, I'm gonna have to resort to drastic things. But regardless, I have to go out there and do it. I'm not allowing you to do that with our child at home. I need you home. I need you sheltered. I need you with our child while I go out here and figure it out. At some point, I'm gonna need to. You ain't gonna want me in the house every day, all day, talking about I love you. We're gonna work this out. You on a timetable with that, And I think that's how it is with most women. So I think those are the two pieces I think they could have hit, so they can come to that, mutual conclusion or understanding.
Yeah. Thank you. Thank you, Ja. Mark, what about you? What stood out for you?
Well, now that you provided a backstory in regards to that, I didn't realize the age difference was 20 years. So he's 48, she's 28. I didn't know it was recorded in 1971. That was a very good year, by the way, because that was the year I was born. So that's excellent that we know that.
Yes, yes.
Right.
Thanks for pointing that out again. In yet another episode.
Yes.
But she has some grand optimism, and I like her optimism. Optimism always shines. Optimism always speaks different, no matter what kind of conversation you having. So based on that age difference, wisdom is always going to speak to youth. When you're speaking to someone a lot younger than you, for the most part, you always feel like you know more. And at the same time, when you do that, you kind of miss something because you're telling the youth how they should think. Now, I don't think he's insulting her by explaining to her how he feels. He never just comes out right and said, listen, this is how you should feel. But he's saying, and man, this, I'm going to do this. And by me doing this, you should want to do this. But I just like the fact that she says she just want him to show up. She just want the male to show up. Sounds like she just want his presence. Everything else going to work out. When, I don't know. The timeline that Josh speaks about, she may not have mentioned that, but sounds like she just want the presence of the male. Right now, don't worry about whether or not you got a job. Don't worry about whether or not you could buy a steak. Don't worry about whether or not you could get your axe out of the pawn shop. At some point, you'll be able to do that, or we may be able to do that together. So if he's thinking about all these things that he can do, how will we ever get her? How can they form this union? And she's saying black men in particular, because she's a black woman. I get that. Sounds like she wanted to form the union without everything else you have to worry about. And I'm sure it was a lot more racial strife in 1971 than it is right now in 2022. It was definitely different times and a lot of things were going on. I mean, but like you said, that's but a small clip of the 2-hour interview. And even after the clip that you played, he mentions that he was in love with someone and he wanted to marry this woman, but he was poor. And he couldn't go forward with that. And I'm assuming this woman loved him for who he was, the person that he was, but he was poor. So he's thinking at some point, like the timeline that Josh said, I'm gonna have to get some bread. Not we, I. So he has to be the breadwinner. He has to feel like he's the breadwinner. And I think they were missing each other's points. Both of them were right in both regards. And then at the same time, both of them were wrong. Not right, not wrong. No pun intended.
Well done. Well done.
Right. But it did sound like he was speaking more towards his wisdom and his worldly experiences, explaining to her like, Nikki, listen. Hold the phone. I like that part when he said that. I'm going to start using that. Hold the phone. This is what it's really like. So he wants her to come down from high because she may have these grand visions of what it looks like. That's not what this man is going to do. You need to come back down. Yeah, I just think that she was very honest in what she wants. And she may have been through enough experiences in her 28 years of living to kind of feel like, listen, not that she's just settling for any black guy, but she's at a point where, listen, just put all that aside. Let me be here for you. Let me comfort you. Let me nurture you. Let me give to you what it is that I want. What Black women give to her Black man by just you being in your physical presence in my space. That's what I got from that piece. And no matter what she's telling him, what she'll do, what she'll deal with, what she'll take, he's like, that's not the reality. That's not gonna happen. I gotta make this money. I gotta make this bread.
Yeah. Listen, thank you, C1. You know what, fellas, we're pretty honest and transparent on not right, not wrong.
Definitely.
But I even want us to like, I want us to kind of really pull the curtain back as much as we can. I want us to flow the way we flow once we turn the cameras off. And I like this interview to me is so personal to me, like almost every single part of it. To hear at the beginning of the interview when they're talking about police brutality in the same way that we're talking about it now. And, you know, I'm not going to say that we're in the same place that they were then. I totally believe that there's been some improvement, but it also feels like the more things change, the more things stay the same. And it is incredible to hear some of the similarities. And hearing what stands out to you two makes me realize how, Ja, you say this all the time about how we always sort of talk from projections, right? We're always seeing the world through our lens, from our perspective. And I think the reason why I selected this clip over the other clips, like I had 3 or 4 clips saved, but this one won out to me because of the very end of the clip. The very end of the clip where he says, this is not, I'm not being rational. And she goes, but you must. And that felt so powerful to me because I feel like women, and D1, Tamika, feels like women are often being labeled as irrational, as emotional, over logic, like not holding both, but holding emotion instead of logic, or, you know, just not having both of the capacity to hold both. And I thought it was so powerful in that moment that it felt like James Baldwin all but admitted that there is an emotional piece here that men are experiencing, and that sometimes the roles can be flipped. Sometimes women can be holding rationality and men can be holding irrationality. The other thing about James Baldwin, and listen, I don't know James Baldwin, I don't know his family, although my maternal line is of Baldwin, so maybe we are connected.
Maybe. You never know.
You never know. I should look
New
into
revelation
you know
on that, right, not wrong.
He's my great uncle.
The world is small.
Let's just go for it. He's my great uncle.
All right.
But
let's do it.
All right, put it out there. Put it out there.
So I say that because there is a question around James. I don't know actually if there's a question, but I believe there's a question around James Baldwin's sexuality. Yeah. I don't know if he declared himself gay or bisexual or anything else, but I believe it is well known that he spent part of his life, at least part of his life, with a man. And so that stays in the back of my mind as he's having this discussion with this younger woman about male-female relationships. And it especially stood out, Mark, about that part where he said he was in love with a woman in, I think he mentioned in his 20s. And I wonder about 22. What exactly came up. And so for me, it is, what stood out for me about this clip is what about the individual comes in between the relationship, right? How much of my own stuff, my own functioning stops me from being able to connect with the other person? And how much of the outside world stops me from being able to connect? And the reason why I say that is because at some point, Nikki Giovanni goes, but my opinion does matter. What I say is relevant, right? I'm not quoting her, but that seems to be her context, as opposed to, I know what's going on in the outside world, but you can't take all of that in and not take me in too. You have to, like, if you're trying to relate with me, my opinion is relevant. And that's the maybe not the last thing, but the last big part of that clip that stands out to me personally is that discussion, that portion of the discussion, not the whole conversation, but that portion of the discussion seems so tilted to women trying to understand men, and not James Baldwin saying to her, because he did seem to respectfully want to give her perspective of his years.
Definitely.
But the problem, I think, with giving perspective of your years, of your experience, is that sometimes you miss the optimism that comes with youth and the possibility of change.
Definitely.
So now we're training people to be exactly what we've been, instead of realizing that change can happen. And I feel like there was also a missed opportunity for him to say, you know what, hold on, let me hear more about what you're going through, because you're saying to me that 20 years, you're 20 years my junior, and you're still experiencing the things that I've experienced. And we've already talked about prior to this what our parents have experienced. And so are we evolving? Like, is anything changing? Are we still dealing with the same stuff that they were talking about in 1971?
Who are you going to?
Go ahead, bro.
Go ahead, Mark. Go for it.
Oh, okay. I said we're definitely dealing with the things that they dealt with in 1971, but it depends on how you see that. So I'll just use police brutality as an example. And to say the more things change, the more they stay the same. Back then, in those particular times during the civil rights era, it was more blatant. And these blatant disregards for Black people and their civil rights, it never led to anyone being jailed. It never led to any kind of prosecution. And if it did, it may have been an all-white jury, and the person that did this particular crime, they got off. You understand? They were never convicted. So now fast forward to 2022. These things may still be as blatant, but now it may lead to some sort of punishment. It may lead to some sort of prosecution. It's more instant gratification. Everything is on camera now. Back then, they didn't have the type of technology that they had to see these. It was just word of mouth. And they definitely not going to believe us at all. Even if we have 4 or 5 eyewitnesses that were Black, they probably wasn't even called to testify. So now it's different. Now, granted, in this particular time, just dealing with police brutality for a second, these things still may be on camera, as we can see with Rodney King, and they still may get off. But we see it. It's clearer now that these things are still happening. So to this day in 2022, are we evolving? I would say so. But to answer that question, it all depends on how fast we want to evolve. Do we actually think that these things are going to stop? Absolutely not. Because the only way that'll happen, we really have to change people's mindset of what it is supposed to be like, and respecting citizens and things of that nature. All of that's supposed to happen. But to jump into relationships and how we evolved in relationships, it's a lot of information to disseminate. So let's say what we want everyone that watched this Listen to Not Right, Not Wrong on 92.6 The Spot every Friday, 6 p.m. to 7 p.m. When they watch this episode and they listen to us, we want them to go back and watch the whole thing, the whole interview between Nikki Giovanni and James Baldwin. We want them to watch the whole thing, and then they could draw from that exactly what it is. So not just in that interview is it a lot to disseminate, just in general. We flooded with a lot of information on what you should do today, what you should wear tomorrow, what you should eat, what your mate should eat, what you should do to make your mate happy, what they won't like. What is it like to date a Black woman? What is it like to date a white woman? What is it like? It's a lot of information. Now, you have to come to some sort of consensus between you and the person that you are, to use D1's phrase, keeping time with, on exactly what it is that you're going to allow into your space. Because if this person is getting this information and they bringing it into the household, that's going to interfere with everything that you have going on. I think you and your mate have to actually have an honest conversation to evolve. I mean, you can't stay together unless you evolve. You're not going to be the same person you were a week ago. You're going to evolve every single day. And whatever the information is that may be vital to the relationship, hey, listen, why don't we try this? I read this. Now, what if the person say no? And you know, one of the phrases that often comes up in relationships, and this has to do with evolving. One of the things people say when they always break up, they say, oh gosh, I forgot that quick.
It's not you, it's me.
We grew apart.
Some
That's the most popular one. We grew apart.
Huh?
That's the most popular one. We grew apart.
We grew apart. Damn. Thanks, Ja. Thanks, Ja. I hate that term. I hate that. Because how does that make sense? I'm with you. So let's just say we're living in the same household. How do we grow apart? If I'm doing everything that I'm supposed to do, however it is that defined, I can't define that because everybody's definition is going to be different. So where am I within this household while you are moving faster than me? So I'm at the snail's pace and you're the toad, but I can't see this. You're moving a lot faster than me. We're going through the same motions every day. And at the same time, I'm thinking everything is fine. Then I find out that we've grown apart. I don't understand how that could be. That never made sense to me. So at the same time, you were growing. And to me, it sounds like an insult because I was stagnant and you were growing. So at the time, you figured you had enough. And you've grown up and out and on. So where was I all this time during this time I was supposed to be growing, or you thought that you were growing faster? Again, back to the evolving point, I thought that we were evolving. If we doing whatever it is couples supposed to do, and let's say I have all the things James Baldwin talk about. I have enough money to get my axe out the pawn shop. I could get your axe out of the pawn shop. And all the different things that he mentioned. Granted, it's a 2-hour interview, so I can't get into the whole thing. But I think a lot of the points that he mentioned, you know, it could be valid, but you also got to listen to the other person and how he defined what a man's supposed to do. Between 1971 and 2022, a lot of that has changed. Some men don't have no job. Some women are the breadwinner. You have to swallow your pride and take that. Some men are what they call them? Stay-at-home dads. In 1971, that was unheard of. Again, this all depends on you and your mate. Because if you taking all this information and try to bring it into your relationship, I think that's when things will start to go left. So to answer your question, it depends on what point that we're speaking about. If we speak about education, police brutality, relationships, have we evolved? Definitely. I think we've become a lot more educated, but that education that we've learned, I don't think is helping.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Well, I do want to narrow in specifically on relationships between men and women. I do want
Got
to
it.
narrow in there.
Got
And
it.
some of what you said seems like it might have connected to what Ja was saying earlier with what works at the beginning of the relationship. Yeah, baby, come on home. It don't matter that you don't have a job. It don't matter that you, I wonder if some of that contributes to the, at some point later, you know what, we've grown apart, because maybe there is a minimizing of expectations, or maybe something changes along the way that says, no, it's actually not okay for you to, I don't know, come as you are, whatever the as you are is. Come as you are in 1971 is different than come as you are in 2022, or maybe it's not. I don't know. Ja, tell me, is it the
Right.
same?
I mean, that would be up to you to define that, right?
Right. But I think it's individual, because they kept switching. Nikki, Giovanni, and James Baldwin, I think, kept switching between like a smaller microcosm, or, individual experiences, and the larger group experiences. And I
Yep.
think we can do the same thing. We can think about our own individual experiences, like, have we evolved? But also the group as the whole. What do we think is going on with the group as a whole? Is their evolution? Ja, what do you think?
Yeah, there's some evolution to a degree. To Mark's point, a lot of data, a lot of information, and also just a passing of the decades. Some very impactful moments, politically, socially, change the trajectory. You see that word again? Trajectory. Thank you.
You
Yeah.
got it.
Change the trajectory of how we flow in society as men and women. But certain dynamics are the same. I still think that women are still on the timetable in terms of expecting a man to do what a man's supposed to do as far as provisions, resources, and having a plan, and exhibiting some sort of leadership towards the plan to keep the nucleus together. There's like I just to reiterate, there's an understanding, and there's a level of compassion, and there's a level of where she steps in and nurture, but that can't last a long time, because it throws off the balance. Because as men we're inherently aggressive. Like Nikki's point, we're inherently aggressive more than women are. Women are more so inherently nurturing. Now, although we all have masculine and feminine in us, it's as men we're created with more testosterone, so we're going to be naturally more aggressive than estrogen. Y'all have the ability to be masculine and aggressive, but you want to be more in your feminine at a certain point. And so with that being said, there's I still stand by that statement. It's still a timetable, but the only thing is that we don't have to we gotta come to that happy medium and have that mutual understanding. And so I think that's still inherently inherently within us individually. As far as relationship wise, the dynamics are different, because times are different. Women are earning a lot of money. Women are having great careers, having great jobs, and women are earned men. And there's circumstances that women are earned men, and there's men out there that are not too prideful and willing to accept the fact that women earn more than them, and on an individual relationship basis, they're able to work it out. I.e., speaking from personal experience, my wife earns more than me, but our dynamic is that there's an understanding and a mutual respect and a partnership where she still shows respect for me as a man, and what I need to do what I have to do, and at some point exhibit some sort of leadership. And I have a man, I as a man respect her opinion, because her opinion is relevant. Her opinion is relevant. I can't go off on a tangent and trying to do things or become something when I'm in partnership and I'm in relationship with a woman and not exclude her. Her conversations to me are important with regards to our nucleus and family dynamic. Yes, her conversations are important. Her opinions are relevant, and her opinions are important. And I think in this day and age, it's time for us as men to acknowledge that, receive that, and understand that it doesn't make us any less of a man. Matter of fact, it makes us more secure as men to have that type of understanding with the women in our lives, where we're not in the time where it's the 1940s and 50s anymore, where we out working and the women are at home cooking, cleaning, minding the kids, and the men are working 10, 12 hours a day, 70 to 75, 80-hour weeks. Times are changing. So as men, we can make that adjustment. Still go out there and do what we need to do, because as men we're naturally built that way to do that. But if we have a woman at our side that has talent, has intellect, and has a sense of have a sense of foundation, then we as men should receive that. It doesn't diminish our role, and it doesn't diminish the level of respect.
Sir Ja, I think you might have gained 2 million female followers.
Fact.
I can hear, IG, Twitter, Facebook, all of it. It's all buzzing.
We on all of them.
Listen, it's all buzzing right now because you said some things that I think are really relevant in the discussion. Is being able to, it's almost like being able to self-define and being able to appreciate the opinion of your female counterpart, being able to appreciate that even if she makes more than you, that you still have value and that you still bring that value. You can still be a man and the kind of natural aggressor. You talked about masculine and feminine energy and encompassing both. Which sounds like a big deal to me. Like, I feel like that masculine and feminine energy is a big deal. And I think that the timetable you talk about, Ja, when I hear it, I know I have a timetable. I know I do. I 100% have a timetable. I am going to nurture and support you. And I definitely have been there, because life be lifing, right? Things are going on. Life be lifing.
That's a fact.
I like that.
That's a fact.
And so, you gotta, if you choose to, to be in partnership with somebody, I think that sometimes that means that you're going to be the one carrying, sometimes more of the financial weight, sometimes more of the emotional weight, sometimes, whatever it is. But yeah, I have a timetable. That to me feels like masculine energy, and it doesn't feel good for me to be in that too heavy for too long. Like, if I'm gonna be in it, I can be in it for a little bit, but then I need to get into, some more of my traditional feminine energy. And not for nothing, you want us in our traditional feminine energy too.
Yeah, at the end of the day, yes, absolutely. At the end of the day, absolutely. That will be ideal. And I think what gets misconstrued is that if what gets misconstrued is that we're like I said, we're less of a man if we accept a woman standing, you know, having a right to her, having a right to her opinion, or even expressing something that will pertain, or, like I said before, be relevant to the family dynamic. It's king and queen, it's king and queen, not king and servant. Yeah, the queen is by the king's side. The king is out into the world trying to make decisions, trying to do certain things. But the most important ear he should have is the queen's ear. Two ideas coming together, having discussion, come into one to make the ultimate master plan to benefit the family dynamic. Why would you want your queen to be quiet and just be domestic? Yeah, you would want to be domestic, but yeah, I want your ideas. I know you're an intelligent woman. You're a freaking intelligent woman. I want to hear your input. Let's sit down and have a discussion about this. That's going to benefit the family dynamic. My queen, the woman by my side. So it doesn't make me less than a man hearing your input. The only person that could make me feel less or more of a man is me.
Mm.
Not what a woman says or does. Me. Because I still have the power to check the situation if I don't like it. And if I don't like it, I always have the option to walk out. So I'm responsible for me. For my manhood. Not her. As she is responsible for her womanhood, not me.
Right.
So if she's understanding in her womanhood and know how to be in a place of womanhood and resting in her feminine, then she will naturally attract a man that's going to be the opposite. That will complement her feminine. And conversely, I as well. If I'm in masculine frame, and also masculine frame contains, and being in a masculine frame also contains operating the feminine in the sense of loving your queen. That's the feminine aspect. So if you're just in full masculine frame and don't have a little bit of feminine, then it's going to be rigid, and that's where you coincidentally grow apart.
Mm.
So that's the yin and the yang right there.
So I could rock out with that. That sounds beautiful. But in reality, there are things that kind of get in the way of that, right? And James Baldwin talked about
life be life.
Life be lifing. About social ills and these external expectations. So John, you're talking about, no one can define who I am as a man except for me. And Mark, I want to bring you into this a little bit and ask you specifically, like, what about the expectations of the world outside of you? Like, how do the expectations of the world outside of you impact how you can relate with your female counterpart? Like, James Baldwin was talking about, basically finances. Basically, he talked about a slave mindset. He talked about this mindset at some point is external to you. And by the time you get to a certain age, and by the way, James Baldwin was 48 at the time that he recorded this. And I just want to remind you both that we are right around that, and we have exceeded that, actually. Right?
Yeah.
So we're kind of the elders now talking to the 20-somethings. Right? Like that's where we sit right now. So we maybe, have some ancient ideas here, but what happens, there are still real world outside expectations that tell you exactly what you should be to be a man, because I know I get outside feedback about what I need to be as a woman. So what you do with that, Mark?
Well, I'll start off with this, since he mentioned he put a lot on money, a lot dealt with finances, a lot dealt with jobs. And that seemed like that was the overarching theme, that a man needs to make money, he needs to provide, period. So you have to have all these goals for yourself. And before you could be with anyone, you have to have a relationship with yourself. Everything starts with you. You have to realize you come first. So any and everything that may be outside that may judge me or hinder me being a male, being a human being, being God's child, being Mark Mills, I have to filter all those things out. So I think that Nikki Giovanni did have a timeline. We may not ever find that out during the course of that 2 hours, but initially she wanted the person to be present. So let's say the person I'm with has that same timeline. Mine may be a lot longer than hers. You understand? But that don't mean I'm just sitting around shiftless and she's making all of this money. And when she comes home, I'm playing video games, not cooking or anything. Whatever it is my contribution is to her, this is what she came into it with. And this is what I'm giving to her that she likes or loves about me. Now, at some point, let's say I want to get a job. Okay, I don't like that job, I get another job. Because like you said, life be life, and things is going to get more expensive as we continue on in this union. But I have to want to level up. I have to want to do these things for me first. I have to be able to take care of myself first before I could take care of her. Now, let's just say for conversation's sake, she gets sick, she gets ill, she gets severely ill. She can't be the breadwinner anymore. Situations like that are going to present itself. Now it's a bigger issue with this timeline. Now I'm forced to do something. I may have wanted to just stay home a lot longer and let her handle this. I can't do that anymore. So I have to have all these goals set aside for myself outside of her and outside of the relationships. Now, everything outside of that, like the politics and parenting and all the other things that go on in the world, we can't remove ourselves from that. We all live here on this planet. We can't escape from it. It's how you deal with it. Is it easy? Absolutely not. But everybody needs to take a moment, right? Some people seek therapy. Some people get hobbies. Some people meditate, do yoga. It's a lot of different ways you could deal with it. But some stress is good. No one ever said all stress is bad. And I know a lot of what we hear and see, people talk about stress like it's a bad thing. It's not always bad. There could be some good stress that you just deal with. You move on from it and you know, wow, I won. I did that. I'm still moving on. I dealt with that situation. I'm done and I'm on with it. I think it all depends on how you deal with it. But a lot of the things that's going on outside, and it may appear to the naked eye that it's getting worse and worse. This may touch on religion for a second, just for a second, because that'll be a whole other conversation. But the Bible said all these things are supposed to happen, right? Everything we see now going on in the world, this is supposed to happen. And it's happening. Everything the Bible says, we see that it is happening. So if it's written in the good book, King James Version, right? This is what's supposed to happen. This is the natural evolution of things. If you are in keeping with that, with religion, but that will go left. But just to answer your question, D1, I have to have all these goals set aside for me. I have to do this for Mark.
Yeah.
Period.
All right.
We only have about 2 minutes left.
I was gonna say we have to bring this to a close. What's that, Mark?
No, I just wanted to add that, because this conversation could go on for a very long time.
Yeah,
but just one thing I also wanted to add. On this platform and everything that we discuss, especially topics of this nature, we just want people to learn from it. And if someone watches it, whether you're single, whether you're in a relationship, whether you're dating online, whatever it is you're doing, if this can help you and this can educate you, take it, run with it, and let it make you a better person. Because this is therapeutic for me every time we come on here and we have this podcast. Believe me, it is.
Yeah. Yeah. In the vein of Nikki Giovanni and James Baldwin, I could see why this conversation was not squeezed into an hour. And so I'd like to call this part 1. And I'd like to thank my co-hosts, Mark and Ja. Just Ja.